Good evening and welcome. Welcome, sustaining members, new members, first-time guests, and dual platform users. Also, switchers. You need not be a member to attend, but some of the benefits of TMUG membership include free raffle tickets, super raffle. For the super raffle, you could win $200 Apple gift card. The winner will be picked in March of 2027. Kurt will be taking attendance tonight, and he will fill in the raffle slips for each of the members. To be eligible, the screen name displayed must match with the record of the current TMUG membership. I don't think we have, and Tony has changed his name to Tony Ewing instead of uh, what he had before, so that's good. Uh, if we can't identify you, you will not be placed in the raffle. Of course, I think we probably will recognize Tony. Welcome to the May edition of the Tucson Macintosh User Group meeting. Let's all celebrate together May the 4th be with you Day, Cinco de Mayo, Mother's Day, and Memorial Day. We will gather next on Tuesday, June 16th of this year at this same virtual location. And hopefully we'll have a working Zoom link without issues.
Yeah.
Tonight we will have a presentation on emergency preparedness on Apple devices, presented by the guest presenter, Steve of the Oregon Mac Pioneers User Group. He's down in the corner on my screen with the emoji of a guy with a bicycle helmet on.
Correct.
We will also take a look at the TMUG forums hosted on the groups.io site and how to best leverage this resource to answer any of your questions on the days that we don't have online meetings. In June, we will have our Ask Me Anything session that has just concluded, and again, hopefully hosted by Kevin. Tony will then give us the recap of the Apple WWDC keynote address. This should be extra interesting due to the passing of the CEO baton from Tim Cook to John Turnus. And that change will take place officially on September 1st of this year. Watch for Zoom to open the survey window. The window will open as you leave the meeting. You will need to complete the survey prior to quitting Zoom. Remember, 5 is better than 1. The door prize winner last month in April was Bill Kunze. Congratulations, Bill. For those of you who have signed up for a copy of the David Pogue book, Apple, the First 50 Years, I have received the books and will take them with me to Macstock, where David has promised to autograph them for us. If you have yet to pay me back for the books, I would like payment prior to leaving for Macstock because I intend to take the money with me and spend the bulk of it on wine, women, and song. Any
Right.
remaining, any
Right.
remaining will probably be just frittered away on frivolous stuff.
You're going to be involved in riotous living and debauchery?
Something like that, yes.
Typical user group leader lifestyle.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Yes, for sure. Um, are there any other announcements? Something I forgot? Okay, in that case, we're gonna move forward with, are there any for sales or wanted to buy items from the floor? Okay. Tonight we will have, next we're going to go into our tech news and security news, tech update and security news with Ridge. And Ridge, I hope you're ready to take over. I'll pass the baton to you and take it away, Ridge.
Okay. Okay,
Okay.
here we go. Play. And of course, first thing we do look at is the software that's useful for us to know about. Especially 1Password got updated and the Firefox had 2. And if you're using Graphic Converter, that got updated. And then Zoom today is the 7.0.5. And the others are as you see. Now the Apple operating system releases, Mac OS 26.5 got done, and then Watch and TV and Vision also. iOS got 3, depending on which version you're running, and iPad OS also got 3. As far as Apple applications themselves, Safari is up to 26.5, and HomePod software got updated for the regular HomePod and the mini one. Coming, or in other words, the firmwares, we didn't get any from Apple this month. And coming is macOS 27. They say that it's already starting to be in development at Apple. Now, their second quarter financial report was released, and look at all those positiveness. Everything was up so many percent and so forth. And their market share grew by 4%. They declared a dividend. And don't forget, Apple has been valued with a market cap of $4 trillion already. So they're sort of the biggest company in the world. And I'm reminding everybody the Worldwide Developers Conference is going to be June 8th to 12th, and the keynote on June 8th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. And these are the various graphics that Apple released concerning the Developers Conference. And here's last week, the U.S. Mint began selling a new $1 American Innovation coin featuring Steve Jobs. And those coins sold out within minutes. And there's the inscription. It reads, United States of America, Steve Jobs, make something wonderful. Now there's a new hub coming that's here from Raycube. It fits the M4 Mac Minis or Mac Studios, the ones that have 2 side-by-side USB-C ports on the front. They're running USB 3.2, and it only costs $29 at Amazon. The hub has 2 USB-C and 2 USB-A ports, as well as the memory card slots on the top. I have bought 2 of them. One of them fits on my M4 Mac Mini, and the other one fits on the front of my Mac Studio. So I have extra ports in the front of my Mac Studio, thanks to this hub. And it works perfectly. One of these pictures you can see the hub working with the thing stuck into it. They look like memory thumb drives. And there's rumors, according to an online leaker, that Apple's upcoming folding iPhone is experiencing issues with the display hinge that Apple doesn't really like because it doesn't meet their strict quality control standards. And that seems going to be causing its release to be later than originally planned. And then there's another online rumor that Apple may release a whole lot of stuff this fall. And here are the things that the rumor says may be released. I'll let you look at these. And what I'm looking for is the MacBook Ultra. And I'm looking for a Mac Studio with an M5 Max or M5 Ultra. And the iMac is supposedly going to get an M5 and have more color options available. And how about a security camera and a doorbell item? Ha ha ha! Thanks so far for this part of my presentation. And now we'll switch over to items of security interest. Apple was the only one that had security fixes they reported this month in all of these applications here for the iOS and the iPad and the Vision and Safari. Look up the fixes for Safari, 21. And Mac OS Tahoe has security features that they're interesting to look at. They have file vault, which is turned on by default in Tahoe. And the recovery keys are now stored in the Passwords app instead of up in iCloud. And then attackers may try to get you to paste commands in the terminal app. And now Apple evokes a warning whenever a pasting command is attempted in terminal app, and also lets you bypass that and go ahead and do the paste, which is not recommended. And then there's the background security fixes feature, which enables Apple to deploy security patches without having to generate full Mac OS point updates. And that provides faster protection against vulnerability to allow them to do that. And also the scam call screening function, which will answer calls from unknown numbers and ask the caller for name and reason for their call before putting them through to you. And then there's locked applications that require your particular authentication to open them. And when enabled, you'll need to authenticate after clicking on those apps. And in Macworld Online's antivirus roundup for the year, here are some they reviewed and what they conclude about them. They like the Norton 360 for its features. And it's $40 for the first year. And for privacy, they like Surfshark 1. Only $51 for 15 months. Yeah, right.
Pardon me.
And then they figured the best and easiest to use is the AVG Internet Security for Mac. Only $47 for the first year. And then they finally said the best program for value is Bitdefender antivirus. Only $25 for the first year. And in cybercrime, Bleeping Computer tells us about a phishing scam targeting Apple users. It's pretty sophisticated, where the attackers use legitimate Apple servers to send convincing fake emails. That scam involves fraudulent purchase alerts, directing victims to call fake support numbers, where scammers attempt to steal financial information or install remote access software. But it's important to use different detection methods when you get a suspicious email and not just rely on one method. And you should still check sender email addresses and headers to see if the originating servers are legitimate. But there are other things to check, such as the wording and grammar inside the email, and whether the email uses generic, odd-sounding labels to identify you, like Dear Customer or Dear Client. And don't click on links in unexpected emails. Verify suspicious emails through official channels and avoid calling numbers provided. And install security updates promptly. And if you get an email that requests phone contact and you can't resist the urge to call, don't dial the number in the email. Go to the company's website and use their listed support number. Any demand by a support person to install remote stuff is Big red flag. And now hackers are abusing Google ads and legitimate Claude.ai shared chats in an active malvertising campaign. If you're searching for Claude Mac download, you may come across the sponsored search results that lists Claude.ai as the target website, but lead instead to instructions that install malware on your Mac. Security researchers say a new Mac OS info stealer called S-Hub Reaper disguises itself as Apple security software to steal passwords, wallets, sensitive files. And that malware abuses AppleScript and legitimate Mac OS system processes to hide its activity and avoid some traditional malware scams. Users can reduce exposure to this info stealer campaign by avoiding scripts or installers from untrusted websites, especially web pages claiming a manual security update is required. Apple doesn't usually ask users to open script editor and click run to install updates. You should download software from official developer sites or the Mac App Store instead of installer pages shared through ads or social posts or unsolicited messages. Unexpected password prompts during installation, especially alongside vague error messages or claims that an update failed, should raise your suspicion level really high. But good news is Apple is still updating Protect and Gatekeeper every month to stop scams and malware. And here's one of the reminders from Macworld Online is how to save maximum security and safe. Install updates when they arrive. Don't override protections. Don't click on suspicious links, and exercise caution when you're on social media. And watch out when connecting to the internet via public networks, such as in a fast food location or a cafe. And keep an eye on those in your family for whom you are responsible. Thanks for your attention, and of course, the overall moral of my presentation here is to stay safe. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, Ridge.
Thanks, Ridge.
Nice job, Ridge.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Ridge.
Here where we go, where it says stop sharing.
It's up toward the top of the screen, I think, in red. In the middle.
Mine's on the bottom of the screen. There's a share button. Or look for the red one, like Bob said. That should be stop sharing.
There it is. There it is.
Okay. Very good. Now we're going to take a look at our. We're going to take a look at groups.io, where we host our forums. Yesterday, I attended a Zoom meeting of the Apple Worldwide User Group University. Each monthly meeting attempts to cover a topic of interest to user group leaders. This meeting was also attended by Kurt and our guest presenter, Steve. The topic for May centered on social media. The speaker advised that user groups need to post to social media at least once a week and on at least 3 platforms. This is supposed to drive new member signups and member retention. We do have a Facebook presence that Roger covers us, as well as a mention on his excellent Go for Lunch YouTube livecast each Tuesday at noon. And if you are not listening to those or watching them after the fact on YouTube, you should do so. In addition to posting meetings, we also In addition, we also post our meeting recordings on YouTube. Then I realized that we have the TMUG forums on groups.io. This is our own, more private, curated, focused social media. That's what I'm here to talk about tonight. It can be accessed in a web browser or via email. Each way has its own advantages. When using a web browser, my recommendation is don't sign out. If you just close the window, you don't need to sign back in again. So we're going to take a look at that first in a web browser. So I'm going to share my screen. Safari user groups, share. So now you should be seeing my Safari window with the user groups up there. Now, please be aware that your list of groups is going to be different and certainly probably smaller. But you see that we have TMUG Announce, TMUG Talk, and TMUG Public up there. We're going to take a look at each one of those. The first one we're going to take a look at is TMUG Announce. So I'm going to click on there. And here is what you see when you go there on the web. This is for communications from TMUG to you. To you, it's read only. You are unable to create or reply to a message. It has a calendar. Look at the left-hand side, and you see a bunch of new stuff in here. And again, yours is going to probably look a little different because I probably have more options than you do. But I'm going to take a look at the calendar. And here's a calendar showing May and showing our two meetings. If you are signed up for this, I strongly advise you to click this button down here in the lower right that says subscribe to calendar. It's going to send you a invitation to subscribe to the calendar that will show up in your calendar app. Accept the invitation in calendar app. The meetings with Zoom links will appear magically in your calendar. Notice that the meetings will also be emailed to you on the day of the notice creation, early in the day in the meeting, and shortly before the meeting. So that's about all that you're going to get from all the messages you're going to get from TMUG Announce. So it's not going to clog up your inbox. We don't want that to happen. So now I'm going to go over to TMUG Talk, where almost everything is going to be happening. So TMUG Talk. Here we're looking at TMUG Talk. This is for communication between TMUG members. And the left, easy for me to say, the left sidebar, note your options will be less. You will see messages. If you click on messages, you will see all the messages as we're seeing here now. After reading a message, such as this one here, you could reply to it if you wanted to by pressing reply. But you don't have to if you don't want to. To create a new message, select new topic in the left-hand sidebar, such as we're going to do here. I'm going to create a message, and we're going to let's call this Star Trek test. And it'll become more apparent as I get through this. Now, one of the things I'd like to draw your attention to is over here where it says add tags, and it's going to have a list of hashtags that you can apply to this message. Why would you want to do that? To make messages of the same type much easier to find down the list. We have a whole bunch of hashtags here. For this one, I'm going to use anything goes. because it's discussions on topics that don't fit anywhere else. Click on hashtags. Now I want to populate this with the message itself. Type your message, and I'm going to switch over to. Has this changed in your view over to a Star Trek thing?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so here is a news item about Star Trek, and normally what I add is news items about Mac stuff, and this is from Yahoo News. And it's got a whole bunch of ads along the side, stuff like that. I don't like seeing those ads. So what I do is I use, what do they call it? Show Reader, which is Command Shift R. So now it's gotten rid of all of that stuff. And it gives you this thing at the top called Summarize. So it gives you an idea of what's in the article. And when I post an article, what I try to do is I'm going to now copy the title of this, copy, go back over here and put that in here. And then I'm going to go back and highlight and copy the summary. Command, Option, Shift, Paste. And it pastes it in there without all that dark gray background and all that stuff. So now the only thing I really need now is the link, which I'm now copying. And so there's the link to this post. And I generally put in something about where I got it, Yahoo News, and so forth. So I'm ready to post this now. The fact that it has the hashtag anything goes, or you can have multiple hashtags if it also applied to iCloud and iOS. You can have multiple hashtags if they are appropriate. And all I would have to do is press send and out it goes. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to discard this because that's not really part of what's important for a TMUG talk. But you can also, it has a toolbar at the top, and you can use access tools for text format, adding lists, adding quotes, images, and links and attachments. Now, please be aware that there's limited storage, so use attachments wisely, sparingly, and use small files when possible. And down, so I'm going to create another message called Groups Show Notes. I hate typing in front of people because it's like trying to parallel park with your mother-in-law in the car.
Exactly.
So let's see, there's some show notes. There it is. I'm going to put in show notes as I got to press the right button, stupid. Add hashtags. Okay. 4. What I have here to put in here is, first of all, I have, when we get to the point where you can do almost all of this right from your mail app, should you want to do so. For me, I prefer to do it when creating a new message. I prefer to do it here in the website. So I'm going to add. Okay. Here's a bullet point in my presentation notes here that you can create a message by sending an email to tmug-talk@groups.io or tmugpublic@groups.io when we take a look at public. And I'm going to add okay, I'm going to add a okay, I've added a list of those show notes. And if you decide to do this from mail.app, this might be important for you to have as a reference. So now I'm going to sign it and send it. So that's how to how to read and create a new communication in for TMUG Talk in the website. And we also have TMUG Public. And here's TMUG Public. Pretty much everything I said about TMUG Talk and how to use it is the same for TMUG Public. TMUG Public gets almost no traffic. Here we have, we did have someone post in TMUG Public today at 8 o'clock this morning, and Roger replied to that. Prior to that, we had April 2nd. So this also is not going to clog up your inbox. The TMUG Public is really there for communication between TMUG members and interested members of the public. So you need not be a TMUG member to use TMUG Public, but you have to be a member to do the announce and to do the TMUG Talk, where basically almost all of the action takes place. So now I'm going to stop sharing and talk a little bit about how to do this. Stop sharing. How to do this in email. In email, if you're subscribed, you're going to get the emails and you can read them and read them and reply to posts as with any other email. I tend to delete the posts from mail.app as I can always refer back to the groups.io website and see that email if I want to find it. And it's going to make it easier to find if it has a hashtag. Oh, it was something about iOS. So I searched on for iOS on the website, and up comes all of the posts with iOS. If you want to start a new post, you can do it from mail.app by sending to the two email addresses that I said before and have put in that show notes. And you can add hashtags to the subject by using the number sign and iOS or whatever it is. And that's one of the reasons I prefer to create the posts on the website. Your mileage may vary. So one of the things I forgot when we were looking at it is that down in the lower right corner of the message as you're creating it on the website, there's more dot 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 or dot 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 more. And with that, you can do many things such as edit or delete your post. Now you can delete any post that you create and you can edit any post you create, but you can't do that to anybody else's post unless you're me. As the grand poobah of groups.io, I have all-knowing, all-seeing, all-powerful. I can do lots of stuff. So that is my little presentation about groups.io. Are there any questions? Okay,
Thanks,
that's
Bob.
fine. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over to Steve, who's going to talk about emergency preparedness using your Apple equipment. Steve, are you ready to take over with your Amish sundial?
My Amish sundial watch says that I am ready. But
Okay.
first, let's take an opportunity here. Since you guys have been doing business and Q&As and everything else, why don't we, for the next 3 minutes, give you the opportunity to stand up, stretch your legs, take a quick trip to the bathroom, splash cold water on your face, whatever you need to do. And then in 3 minutes, I'll start the show.
That'll be fine.
Okay.
If I had the tick tock sound from whatever that
Jeopardy.
Jeopardy, I would be
Yeah.
playing it, but I don't have that. So we'll see you at 7:43 p.m.
You betcha. You'll see a
Arizona
bunch of
time.
green leaves on the screen.
Okay. Very good, sir.
And Bob, if you could be my eyes and ears when I present, I won't be able to see the audience. So if somebody raises a hand or puts a critical question in the chat, you can, interrupt me or speak up whenever you need to.
I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you. And you can give me a cue when you think everybody's back and ready to go.
I think we're probably here now. So anytime you're ready, Steve, just go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for inviting me to come to present. I, just a month ago, presented this very same topic to the Anchorage, Alaska user group. So I've done quite the flip-flop of temperature regions from Alaska to Arizona. In fact, I don't know what was the high today in Arizona and Tucson.
Wasn't that hot
Wasn't
today?
that bad?
At my house was 91.4.
Yeah, I was just
Okay.
gonna say it's a cool day for
Yeah,
May.
88 here.
You
Hey,
had fur coats on?
it was
No, but we
106
didn't go
last
swimming.
week, so speak for yourself.
Well, the it's cool. I mean, what I love about this is that of course I've already visited your group last month and so a few months back before that, but as I get to meet other groups across the country, um, I've delighted to find that we still have a lot of really, really good active user groups still going, and the Tucson group is no exception. So again, thanks for inviting me. This topic is a rather important one to me because my background, as we get into this, you'll see that. So here we go. Now, this slide here is really just some of you are, know how to get around Zoom and do stuff, but if you want to get your screen like you're on a Mac laptop or something that might only be 13 inches, or you want to get the most out of that, then you might use some of these tips here, putting Zoom in full screen. Um, by the way, when you go up to the top right corner of Zoom and there's that little grid, that's the view grid, and you get to select from gallery, speaker, multi-speaker, etc. The reason I put this tip on choosing speaker, you're not going to see the rest of the audience, but in that mode, you can actually narrow that right pane very thin, more than you can any other selection, and therefore give you a bigger screen on the main window to the left. So that's why I mentioned this. And then if you close your chat window, that's going to give you more space too, of course. But, that's optional. Yeah, please do mute your mic until you're ready with a question, or you raise your hand and Bob calls on you.
Just so you know, I've muted everybody except Steve and myself.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, it's not a good sign when you're snoring while you're presenting. So I am the founder and president of the statewide Oregon Mac Pioneers User Group. Before that, I was the president of the Corvallis MUG. And in 1999, I decided that I would start a statewide group to support all the other user groups in the state of Oregon. And we even created a annual event where we moved from town to town around the state and hosted the event in all the different user group towns. I'll talk about that more later, but that was the purpose of creating a statewide user group. And then since then, both from the internet and the pandemic and use of Zoom and such, we've gone beyond those borders. But um, my name's Steve, and a little bit about Memoji is that I'm just kind of that way. I don't like to be part of the show, so I just use an emoji of myself. But I have to say, I'm a good artist and a good creative type, so my emoji looks very accurate. Oregonians, people up in the Pacific Northwest ride their bikes almost everywhere. So you often are going to see me with a bike helmet on. I do wear glasses, reading glasses. I do have some freckles. And I might not be quite as thin as the Memoji there, but I'm close to
Nobody is.
it. Now, here's my background. Now, some of that, the more serious or productive stuff, but more than 3 decades as an American Red Cross instructor on many different levels. A first aid instructor, advanced first aid instructor, lifeguard instructor, water safety instructor, the whole gamut, and worked at an aquatic center for a couple of those decades. And so the Red Cross background is an important and dear to me part of my resume. And here's a quiz for everybody. Which state produces 90% of the hazelnuts in the country?
I would
Anybody?
guess Oregon.
Dang, I hate it when people get it right off the bat. You are correct, sir. And somebody tag his name so I can get him some hazelnuts for answering that correctly.
Well, that was Kevin.
Okay, thanks, Kevin.
Anytime.
Now, this is our topic for tonight. I'm going to go through this not too fast, but there'll be a lot to absorb. I have 2 little PDF handouts that I'll drop into the chat when I'm done. One of those will be like a 3-page PDF that shows you the icons of most, if not all, of the apps that I'll be showing you in the presentation so that you can match them up in the app store. A lot of times there's apps that almost have exactly the same names, and the only way you can tell them apart is by the icon. So I wanted to make sure I gave you a visual of those apps that I'll be naming or showing a few of those to you. And then the other PDF handout will be, it has to do with the emergency plan. And I had to take out a couple of the cactus thorns before I got past this slide. Now, these are the kind of scenes that you might be familiar with or saw in the news or know somebody that lived close to disasters like this. We're going to talk about weather disasters, other kinds of disasters or emergencies that hopefully you're going to be prepared well enough to so that you're not this close or that you don't have to survive or endure going through it. There's a lot of different situations like this is in the Cascade Mountains in Oregon. It's a 3-hour drive straight from Corvallis in the middle of the Willamette Valley, heading east across the Cascade Mountains to get to Central Oregon, where places like Bend or Redmond are located. And this was actual wildfire in the mountains on the road that you travel to get there when there were heavy wildfires about 2 to 3 years ago during the summers. And there's people that won't really acknowledge it or concede that there is some climate change going on or not, but people that have lived in any part of the country for 20 or 30 years probably have seen some changes. Normally, when you see hot weather and cold weather like this graphic here, it's split across the middle in a latitude, not vertically like this. And this is what we went through about 2 months ago, where there were extreme cold that came down from the Arctic in Canada, and turned the right half of our country into popsicles, and then we still had this hot weather going on the left half. So there are things going on and patterns that are changing, and it's not as predictable as it once was. Here's probably one of the biggest ones. You might remember this going back to 1980. This was in the state of Washington, Mount St. Helens. And talk about national disaster. You kind of saw some of this coming. Because of seismic activities, which they could measure, they were pretty certain something was going to blow, but not the way that it did, and as big of an impact that it was in several states, not just the state of Washington. Because when St. Helens blew, it didn't blow straight up, it blew sideways, and it launched like a 200-mile-an-hour heat wave that floored timber for miles. And then the volcanic ash. This one graphic on the left is after it had blown, but on the right, this is a photograph of a guy that was actually in the mountains, which looks like his Pinto, and had a motorcycle, and he was that close to the mountain. Back then we didn't have cell phones. If you were that close, it was the rumbling, the vibration, or the visual of seeing this thing happen that let you know you needed to head in the other direction. I think this guy survived, but there were people that did not. This is the 21, 22 summers on the West Coast where there were lots of wildfires. This is an app called Air Bubbles. It shows you very graphically in the dark red and the red areas that these were the heat zones. These were where most of the fires were at that time. I'll talk about another app that's good. I don't think Air Bubbles is available anymore, but there's another good one. Whoops. Let me see if I can back up here. There we go. Okay. Well, I did it again. I hit the slide. This is a satellite of the state of Oregon when the biggest wildfires were happening. And again, this was a case of luck for some people because notice the wind direction. It was blowing east to west, and so it was blowing towards the Pacific Ocean. When St. Helens blew, there was an inch to an inch and a half of volcanic ash that went all the way down to southern Oregon. So the ash that came from the volcano traveled that far south. Then it went over to Idaho. Again, depending on the direction the wind was blowing, but I won't forget it because that volcanic ash went everywhere. And suddenly people were buying out air filters for their cars and buying out masks and buying first aid kits, and you couldn't find them. I mean, almost instantly. So, like the pandemic, that can cause those kinds of rushes on supplies. If you're prepared, good for you. If you look closely at the graphic here, this is the Atlantic Ocean. And this is actually a wind map. So this was of a nor'easter that happened about 4 or 5 months back. And again, the color zones help you identify where the intensity is, sometimes where the air movement is, and so forth. But this definitely, for people near along coastal lines, know that these heat waves or wind conditions can also affect flooding, a lot of different changes in the weather. So yeah, COVID mask isn't going to cut it when you're talking about wildfire smoke, carbon monoxide poisoning, or other gas emergencies. You're going to need something like this. This is just a little graphic I like to put in here at this point because uh, I don't know, the Batman thing on the left is just kind of like, okay, danger, here's the Dark Knight, here's the whatever the emergency is. The Angry Birds in the middle are kind of like whether how well prepared you are. If you're very well prepared, you're the green bird on the bottom. If you're somewhere in the middle, so-so, yellow. If you're not prepared, you're the red bird. And if you know God, good, you can pray and ask for his help. If not, you might have to call on Superman because some of these emergencies are life-threatening for sure. So our holy grail is the iPhone. And the two main devices I'm going to be talking about tonight are the iPhone and the Apple Watch. These are our main emergency tools when it comes to Apple devices. Now, an iPad with cellular can do most of some of these things that we're going to talk about, but not all of them, where an iPhone can do a little bit more and have some critical features involved there too. One other device that I thought of, well, what would you consider a helpful or an additional Apple emergency tool? Well, AirTags. If you have those and you put the one in your backpack, one in your car, uh, attached to your keys or whatever, it's not just for locating, oh, I lost it in the couch or in the house, but this goes beyond that. This goes if you had to go to a hotel for an emergency, if you had to um, go to another town or even go out of state to escape an emergency, then these are very helpful little additions to your emergency plan. Anybody else think of any others that I'm not thinking of? All right, now we're going to step back and take a look at the bigger picture. And we're going to talk about creating a broad emergency plan. The main thing about my topic today is just to get you thinking about this stuff or revisiting it. I was a Boy Scout. I was a Cub Scout and a Boy Scout. So some of that preparedness is built into me. But you still have to revisit these things every few years or something and really think about what's unique in your area. What are the natural disasters that happen often or some of the ones that could happen? And in escape routes, equipment that you need, etc. So I do my brainstorming in Apple's freeform app, but you don't have to do that. You can just use a pencil and paper, start writing down a few things. The PDF handout that I'm going to give you from this, you can use that as a starting point, but all emergency plans are progressive. Every time I do this presentation, I think of something new that I should add to that list or this emergency plan, or somebody else from the audience enlightens me and gives me something to think about. So one of the things I strongly recommend that you get for your home is a power supply. This one, and I'm, not being specific to a brand, this just happened to be the one that I bought. I believe it was on sale at Amazon for about $125. The price is going to change on what you look at and what capabilities they have. But this unit is about, 10 inches wide by about 7 or 8 inches in width. It's somewhat heavy, but you can pick it up and it has a handle. So it's good enough for some basic things in the house, but you can also take it with you and put it in the car if you have to go somewhere else or be a camper for a while or be in some remote area. So if you look at it, you can see you got basic plugs, basic USB ports, USB-C. It has a built-in flashlight, has a digital display. You power this up once, it'll show you that battery readout. And when it's full, it'll last for months and months, almost at full capacity. So the standbys on these things are great. I've powered lamps from here. I've powered my iPhone, my iPad, my laptop, my watch. So it's capable of doing all those things. And here's another biggie. This one, I can't stress enough to have some type of mobile weather radio, but not just any kind, one that can be powered in several different ways. So this one can be charged by cable or using 3 AA batteries. It has a solar panel on it. And most important, it can be hand cranked. So you can take this anywhere, and depending on the supplies you have, power it up in different ways. But at the very least, you can hand crank it and get, 15, 20 minutes out of each cranking or something for weather updates in your region or emergency weather broadcasts. And this particular one is about $23 on Amazon. There's all kinds of different types, but I strongly recommend getting one that it can be charged in all these different ways. They're well worth every penny. And this young lady is a smart one because she's using solar panels, kind of big ones that can fold up. It's from a company most of you are familiar with, Anchor. And I heard you guys have sunshine. So solar panels might be a good thing too. So now we're going to take a look at safety features in iOS and the features on some of the Apple hardware. The iPhone's the most important one because it has so many functions that it can do. But most importantly, it's cellular based. You can connect by Wi-Fi, you can connect by Bluetooth, and we're all familiar with some of these apps that come with the iPhone, and then some of them that can easily be had. So here are a couple screenshots, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about the alerts and the delivery, but also that right screenshot is how you activate EMS on an iPhone, a couple of different ways that you can do it. And we'll talk about that coming up too. And one of the biggest features is emergency SOS. A lot of you are familiar that this service can be triggered manually, or it can take place automatically. If you have an iPhone 14 or above in your car and you're in a crash and you're knocked unconscious, your iPhone 14 or above will automatically detect that you've been in a crash, and with no response after 1 minute, like your Apple Watch, it will automatically dial emergency medical services, give them your location. And knowing that things like that can happen, is a big comfort and a reason to get some of these models that have these extra features on them. Also, the iPhone 14 and above was the first to give you satellite services on your iPhone, emergency satellite service. So we'll talk about that too. Here's a pop quiz, and you can unmute your mic or raise your hand, or Bob, let me know. But anybody tell me, where in which app do you set up your emergency contacts?
In the health app.
Dang, it's too many smart people in this class. Correct. A lot of people, especially beginners to the Apple world, don't, it's not the most intuitive thing to go to. Like, oh, I thought it'd be in my contacts. It says emergency contacts. So yes, you can actually create emergency contacts from the Contacts app, but it's where you set it up the right way and to enable other features. This is done in Apple's Health app. So there you see a screenshot of like the main screen, and then I circled there where your medical ID is, right underneath your name. And it's in there that you set up your medical ID information and that you create your emergency contacts. I recommend having at least 4 people as emergency contacts, and at least one of those 4 out of state. If 3 of them are in the same town or right around the neighborhood, great. But you need a remote one also, and we'll talk about that in a second too. But the health app, and when you're in there and setting up the medical ID, it's kind of cool that they give you a status report here. This second screenshot is showing that, hey, on my iPhone, I have emergency SOS turned on. I have my medical ID set up. It was last updated in February 10. I have fall detection turned on. I have walk steadiness notifications turned on. So you're getting these status reports on all these health and safety things that can be turned on. And then in the emergency SOS part of it, I drew an arrow that on this screen, if you look all the way at the bottom, there is also a place you can see a summary of the emergency contacts that you've set up. And I don't show it here, just I'm protecting people's phone numbers and that kind of stuff. So, but that's where you can also see it too. Now, here's a big one. Location services, notifications. We get this stuff where everybody and their mother wants to know where we're located. And Hulu wants to know, Peacock wants to know, Amazon wants to. Whether certain people or services, yeah, you want to make sure that you say okay to that. But you can turn on and off location services for individual apps. Just mentioning this because when you start to identify what are emergency apps or what helpful apps in emergencies, you want to go in there and make sure, yes, you've got location services turned on, and that you also have Share My Location turned on. And here's an example of everybody probably has Find My turned on for their phone, etc. So that's another helpful piece of the puzzle here. But we also have notification alerts. And oftentimes we have too many notifications from apps, from news, from you name it, calendar, your own reminders app, et cetera, et cetera. And we tend to, after a while, get tired of that or overwhelmed. And so we quiet them down. We turn some of those off. We may even turn off notifications completely. But again, each individual app, and here is the weather app itself, where I can go in and make sure that under notification delivery, that it's not only is it turned on, but that immediate delivery is checked. And then down below, critical alerts is turned on and time-sensitive notifications are turned on. So for critical apps, turn those features on. I don't know whether it might have, I don't know if it was before iOS 25 or what, but it was only in the last 2 or 3 major upgrades that they gave us critical alerts, that part of it. And the thing to know about those is when those two are turned on, when critical alerts is turned on, that alert sounds and the display of the alert will be shown even if you have do not disturb turned on or your screen is off. And here's a big one. On my iPhone and on my iPad, I have this folder that's titled Emergency. It is on the very first home screen on both of my devices. This is the bottom of my iPad that I cropped of the screenshot. This is not my iPhone. But you see that I created a folder, and in it there are apps that I feel are critical emergency apps that you have. I stress creating a folder called emergency and putting it on the home screen because you don't want to fuddle around and you can't find it when it should be right in your face when an emergency happens. You can get straight to the app that you need to use or find something quickly. So it should be that in your face. These are screenshots of the apps that I have on my iPhone. These are iPhone screenshots here. So you can see the names of some of them right now, but there's 2 of them. If you do not have them on your iPhone right now, do it before this meeting ends or right after this meeting ends. And that is the American Red Cross Emergency app and the American Red Cross First Aid app. There are other good emergency related apps. This one's called ProLight. And you're saying, well, my iPhone's already got a flashlight or anything. Well, yeah, but this one can do strobe lighting. It can flash the entire screen. It can flash in Morse code. It even gives you a Morse code chart if you're not familiar with that or you're not in the Navy. Turning on LED flash and certain emergency sounds and vibrations. So I think that's a good, handy third-party app to grab. Here's another one. It's called Watch Duty. This was created by firefighters. So it's kind of a community open source based creation. And in fact, it still is. It got pretty big and became very important because it's user-based updating. And so you can actually kind of become an input source or a station that reports, oh, there's a fire in my neighborhood, or there's a fire in this part of the state, or etc. And it'll immediately be updated and broadcast through this app. If you look at the legend on the far right, you can see there's a lot of different types of statuses of fire, whether it's active, inactive, how close it is. And of course, visually, as things get more yellow or more red, that's hotter or more active or bigger fires. So this is a really good app if you have to worry about wildfires or forest fires or live in a dry state. Now, I just presented to the Anchorage group last month, so I took some screenshots there. It was actually Cheryl, from the leader at their group, that told me about this app. So this is the Quake Watch app. That's what the icon looks like. And you can see there's a lot of quakes happening up in Alaska. Now, the good thing is those pins are green. Green pins mean they're very small earthquakes. you can go in and change the settings in this app to say, I don't need to see earthquakes that are under a 3 point on the Richter scale. Just show me anything above that. And so you'll reduce the number of pins that way if you want to. But there are categories where, you can easily tap at the top and go, show me the biggest earthquakes that have happened around the world right now. And it'll say, oh, it was in Japan 30 minutes ago. Or it was over here. And then you can tap on the category and go to show me what's happening nearest my location. And then it'll do that. So this is a really cool app. Then this one I found some months back called Pulse Point Respond. This is another community-based one, and that taps into a few resources. One of them, which is um, scanner radios from the police and emergency services and fire departments. So you can use this app to tune into. You can do a little bit of that, but actually there's another app I'm going to show you that's specifically to that. But this community-based pulse point respond, on the screenshot on the right, you can see there's different categories. So if I check mark these categories, it's only going to give me updates for those types of emergencies. And I have seen, it pops up and it'll tell me, hey, there was an accident just like a mile or 2 miles from you on this main artery or whatever. So it is real time and we'll give you those updates. And you can contribute to it too. Okay, now, if everything goes right, this is the part where I kind of give you a little, actually, yeah, Bob, while I'm doing this, I'm plugging in if I can find the end of my cord. Got it tangled up here. I gotta find the end of it. Plugging in my iPad so that I can share that screen. But can you do a raise of hands, a visual thing, and tell me how many people have the emergency and or the first aid apps already installed on their iPhones? Go ahead and raise your hands, and
Okay.
Bob, you can tell me how many.
I got 1, 2.
Okay. Well,
And
good. I'm
one is
glad I'm
holding up
presenting
both
tonight.
hands.
Because I'm going
So we got
to ram that down
3,
your throats. Let's see.
3 out of 20.
Okay.
So the score isn't real good yet.
No, it isn't. Okay. And let's see. I'm sharing there. I think I can do this without stop sharing and going over. Dan Wasink kind of taught me this trick. Okay. Let's see. Optimize for video sharing. I don't know if I should have that turned on. Let's see. I have to go to more at the top. Choose iPhone or iPad via cable. Say share. Allow this computer to sync with iPad. Oh, I see what it's doing. It's asking me if I want to trust the device or not. Sometimes I see this too, and Zoom gets me stuck in this little loop where I can't switch over to the iPad. So we'll put a pause on that. I'll just disconnect that and go back to the
Okay.
the keynote. Just without showing it to you, again, I highly recommend that you download the American Red Cross Emergency app and the American Red Cross First Aid apps. Here's my pitch. These apps give you education. They give you an opportunity to take online courses. They give you an opportunity to guide you in an emergency. If you don't or have never taken a class in CPR, it will show you the basic steps. So if you had nobody around but your phone, you can actually open this thing up and have it show you the steps that you need to do CPR properly. And so many different things for burns, for swallowing poisons, for bandaging, on and on and on. It these two apps will give you a tremendous opportunity for education. Again, signing up for online classes just as if you were taking them locally. I think it's always better that if you have a Red Cross office in your town to take it locally, but when you can't, you can do them online. Um, and they're the same prices, they're $25, $27, $37, depending on the course. And you get the certification for a year or 2 years, whatever the class's certification is for. Okay, what other emergency apps? I consider weather. I have several weather apps. Um, you notice I don't have Apple's weather app in there. That's because I don't keep it in that folder. I keep it outside the folder where I can either in my dock or on the home screen. So
Steve,
otherwise,
if you've moved on in Keynote, it hasn't happened here. What we're seeing is
you haven't seen it yet?
closer. It says closer look American Red Cross emergency and first aid apps.
Okay. Let me
You might
stop sharing.
need, yeah.
Let me stop sharing for a second and then go back to it. Thank you. I think I need to go back to screens, share, and flip over to Keynote. Do you see it now?
I see weather,
Oh, good. Okay, thank you.
a list of
Thanks
weather
for that
apps.
feedback. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Thank you. And I noticed there's some things in the chat, but I can't see that, so please bear with me if you have some questions. So these are the weather apps in my weather folder. Um, Windy is a really good one for areas that you have strong winds because of the way that it shows you the currents at many different levels and many different views. Air Visual is the other one other than Air Bubbles. I'll show you that app in just a second. So you might see it as IQ Air Visual. Living Earth, Yo Window is more of a fun one, but it's also like a time machine because it's kind of an animated representation of weather. And if you drag your finger left or right, you go back in time or forward in time, and it'll change the weather as you drag. So you get a really cool visual of the changing weather going forward. On the Way is an app that is really cool because if you have to leave town and go to another town or another state, this app will use your route as base points for the weather and show you the weather and all these different stops that you may have or along the route on the way to your final destination. And that's kind of good to know what kind of weather you're driving into. So here is the IQ visual. The screenshots you're seeing here are of three different towns on the left, Eugene, Oregon, Corvallis, Oregon. Both of those towns are in the Willamette Valley down the center of Oregon. Bend is across the Cascade Mountains on the east side, across the mountain range. But this is what I like about this app. You open it up and bang, depending on what towns you've put in locations, I could tell right there from that screenshot, well, Eugene's got kind of so-so air quality because it's orange. Corvallis, uh, not quite as bad as Eugene. It's moderate because it's yellow, and Bend is fresh air, clean, everything's good. So just by the color coding, I can tell that. But you can go also by a timeline and see it in the week and see the changes by the hours moving forward. Now the orange in this case, it says unhealthy for sensitive groups. So it might not be a concern for most people, but people with asthma or having breathing problems or something like that, then they should be aware of this, of what's going on outside at that time. Um, Real quick on this app, you guys remember Dark Sky?
Yes.
Dark Sky was a very, very cool app because of its preciseness and its ability to go down almost to the minute of telling you when it was going to rain in your area, in your pretty much to your street, to your house. And they did a great job with it, so good that Apple bought the company and bought Dark Sky and the staff, and then they merged them into their weather app. So the Apple Weather app has a lot of the Dark Sky DNA now too. Well, the same people that created that, the ones that weren't hired or maybe the ones that left, create this brand new app just a month or two ago called Acme Weather. Um, so you're saying, what do I need another weather app for? Well, some of them give you some kind of pretty cool features along the way. And you can see here's some notifications in this app that for lightning, for severe weather, giving you a daily summary, community precipitation, next hour, etc. Um, Check out this was Naples, Florida screenshot from the temperature map, but check out this last screenshot. It says try out new features we're cooking in our lab. So they kind of label these experimental, but you can turn on notify me when there's a rainbow that might be visible outside, when the aurora borealis might be visible in your town, or when the next beautiful sunset might happen. So those are three unique little features that are kind of cool to this app. You get I think a week's free trial, and then it's $25 for the year. But you can imagine from the people that created Dark Sky that it's a very, very accurate and really good app. So, you can test drive it for a week and see what you like. Sometimes you get what you pay for, but then sometimes, So I kept a slide in here because I was kind of excited about this NOAA weather radio app. And so it was $4.99. I went ahead and purchased it, and the interface and the features looked really good. But then when I started to use it, I noticed that there were only two like stations within the state of Oregon, and other states may have had more and so forth. Yeah, that didn't bother me that there were only two in Oregon, but when I tried to tune into them, that thing wasn't working. And then I'd try some other states and some of the other ones, and like 50% of the stations weren't working. And so I, like a day or 2 days later, I contacted Apple and I got refunded for the app. It may become a really good app, but at the time, it just wasn't cooked all the way or good enough. So sometimes you use or recommended a really good app and it might cost a couple of bucks, and you get it and you see, this is my cup of tea. So just be aware of that too. Have a folder for travel. Here we go. Easy one. Compass, Apple's Compass app. Um, Highway weather. That's much like the other app that I showed you that was in the weather app. It's like an in route for weather along your route and to your destination. An altimeter. I got, baggage stuff. Time shifter is cool for jet setters that are traveling different states, different time zones. That's because it helps you prepare for those changes and how to get better sleep. Um, but travel, gas buddy. I mean, right? Unless you got an electric car, you want to know where gas stations are along a route. especially in an emergency. And then there's the big one, the flush app. Where's the nearest toilet? This is the second page of my travel folder. It's typical stuff for Amtrak or an airline. Transit is an excellent public transportation app, no matter where you live, because it's really ties into the travel routes of bus systems and everything else. But again, if you're in a vehicle, you're on the road in an emergency, heading out to who knows where, maybe somewhere you've never been before, because you're trying to escape a wildfire or a flood. iExit will not only show you where there's gas stations, but also say these are the restaurants that are at the exit coming up or in another 50 miles, etc. So you can kind of plan ahead and know where there might be a good exit point for you to get food or take a break, find a hotel, that kind of stuff. Old school radio. So did I get that app in there, icon in there? Oh, I don't think I did. Darn. There's one called Radio App that's white with a red bar down there. And on the bottom, you see there's another one called Radio App that has a space between the two words and a different icon. So this is the example of an app, if you were typing in a search field, might show you the two. And so you say, how do you know which one was Steve pointing me to? Well, in this case, it would be both of them, but being able to identify them by the icons too helps. And these apps will let you tune into FM and sometimes AM frequencies over the internet. So you can, if you don't have a weather radio or something else, you can still possibly get some emergency information that way. This is the app that does the specific one. It's called Open Megahertz or Scanner app. And this one is built specifically to tune into the police, emergency, and firefighter broadcasts. And you can see the screenshots I took. The first one, Renton, Washington, the police primary. And these are real-time ones. On the screenshot on the right is Puget Sound Emergency Radio. That's the Seattle Fire Dispatch channel. And so you can tap into local ones, and this is really, really helpful too. Again, just getting updated information and maybe warnings about emergencies that are happening that might block your route or impede a route that you already had picked out, or finding out if the coast is clear to return. Then there's the health app. We talked about there too, setting up your emergency SOS contacts and other helpful information in emergencies. There's other little things like a spider ID app or something, if you know that you can go into epileptic shock because you were stung by a bee or stung by a spider, then those kind of apps are helpful too, to more preventative, but also maybe afterwards too in minor emergencies. And of course, the Go Poop app, one of my favorites. Now, our Apple devices can do some pretty cool tricks, and especially when they're connected to other things. So creating a scene or an automation using Apple's Shortcuts app or the Home apps. So I have two HomePod minis in my room. I use them as stereo speakers for my TV, but because they're HomePod minis, I can do all the "Hey lady," commands that I need to, and talk to it, or even do phone calls, just not even getting up out of the chair, et cetera, et cetera. Getting information But the cool thing about these HomePod minis is and Apple didn't tell us this when they first sold them, when they first came out. It was like a year later, they go, oh, by the way, we put some sensors in those too. I think they didn't tell us because they didn't have it fully tested yet. Or, so then when one of the iOS updates came out, they go, hey, guess what? You got sensors in there. So the HomePod minis can detect the temperature in your room that the HomePod mini is in, and it also has a humidity sensor. So this is what you can do. You can set up a sensor that says, hey, when the temperature drops below 58 in the bedroom, um, send me a sound warning or a message or an email. Now, in Tucson, it may be the reverse, right? When the temperature goes above 140, let me know. Anybody know what TV show I just referenced there?
That would be Lost in Space.
Lost in Space.
Oh gosh.
We're
nice
good.
It's nice to have people who are close to my age too. Now, Apple created an amazing device. I just am really high on the Apple Watch. Um, because yeah, Johnny Ive made it and it was kind of fashion oriented to begin with. But then when they found out, yeah, if we put this sensor in here and do this other, and it became more and more health centric. And it can do so many amazing things to help us with our health, but also in emergencies too. So one of the things they added in iOS was a feature called check-in. And if you don't know what check-in is, I tap here, I switch over to Safari, and it takes me right where I wanted it to take me, which is Apple's iPhone user guide. And right to the section 2 that says use check-in on iPhone to let friends know when you've arrived. So you set this and turn this feature on, like if you go hiking out in the woods, you go on a trip, you can you can already logically tell how helpful this is in certain situations. And you can do it by time. Like if I don't arrive at this destination in 2 hours, then it will send you a notice, your friend a notice, or your family member a notice, whoever you want to turn the check-in on for. And so down here, send a check-in when I arrive or after a timer, a specific period. So it's either going to look at your location and see when you've arrived at your destination or a certain time period, and it'll activate it that way. And then it'll send information to that person or persons that you turned check-in on for. Switch back. So there's 2 levels of this information that you can pass on, limited or full. And it's up to you to decide. The full really doesn't give a whole lot. I mean, it's not like it's giving out extra personal information, but it will give you information like more precise location and when the last time you might use cellular, or when the how much battery charge you have left on your device. You can see right there in that screenshot on the bottom, it's showing an iPhone and an Apple Watch and their battery status, their Wi-Fi and their cell status. So this is passed on to that person that you wanted to have a check-in with to make sure that you're okay or you reach your destination. So it's kind of cool. You can do it limited or full. And then Apple also produced a 169-page guide for personal safety for Apple devices. This is something really cool to kind of look at or browse through. And in my handout, this link will be there for you. So I'm not going to go to that right now, but that's another little cool thing that Apple did was create that booklet.
Okay, Steve, I think we probably need to kind of draw this to a close, and
Yeah, almost done.
we'll take your PDFs and I will publish them to the group.
Sounds good. So Apple Watch is the other big device. If you look at the screen down below, medical ID, compass backtrack is when you've been out hiking, it remembers your steps. You can't remember how to get back, then you turn that feature on and it will reverse the steps and steer you in the direction back to where you started. Turning on emergency SOS, whether it's fall detection or not. But the Apple Watch Ultra 2 or better has a siren mode too that can produce a very high-pitched sound that can be heard hundreds and hundreds of yards away.
The Ultra Watch 1 has it as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it must have been a software thing too, because they said it was only with the 2 when it first started. So that's good to know. Good, good, good. Thank you. Our Apple Watches also have, if you've ever gone and turned the flashlight on, a white screen cleverly doesn't blind you first. It slowly warms up to full white. But then there's also an emergency mode where you can go into a red screen and flash. There have been one of the leaders in the Naples, Florida group said, yeah, somebody actually used this feature, was rescued by helicopter. And the dad was watching on their Apple Watch. Here's another really cool thing. You can make your own emergency watch face. Do so you can retrofit this and change it to your liking, or you feel what's better for this. But here, using Apple's infograph watch face, you can add these complications all around the watch or in the center. And so these are the ones I created an emergency watch face with.
We don't really have to worry about tides here in Arizona.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, tweak it to your own region. But it's really cool that you can make your own emergency watch face. And finally, don't forget to load up on your digital emergency funds. As you can see, I'm a rich man. But having that kind of cash along with regular cash or something might be a game changer too when you have to leave town fast and have to survive in a hotel or out in the woods or whatever.
Well, right now I have $181 in my Apple Pay cash, but
I'm
it
part of
doesn't
your
mean I'm
family
rich.
share, right?
Doesn't mean I'm rich, Steve. I just bought a MacBook Air, and I think that's a fair amount of that 180
Oh
bucks.
yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I could still be part of your family sharing.
Hey, I'm up for adoption.
All right, everybody. So here's the 7 things I want you to walk away with. You know, hopefully I've stimulated some of the brain cells to get you thinking about this kind of stuff, but I want you to create at least 4 emergency contacts, know how to activate SOS on all your devices. Sometimes you can press the side button on the phone 5 times real quick. Other times you hold it for a certain amount of time. Like I said, some of these features are turned on automatically. It depends on the model of iPhone you have. Create an emergency folder on your iPhone and your iPads. And install those 2 big apps I told you about. Then work on your emergency plan and more than one first aid kit, one kit for your car, one for your house, actually two in your house. If you got two floors, one on each floor, um, you can build your own first aid kits, or you can buy them from the Red Cross, or you can buy kits from Amazon. It's not hard to do.
We do have a question
Okay.
in the chat, and Chris wants to know, where is the check-in app? What is that part of?
Oh, check-in is initiated in the Messages app. It's that plus sign that you tap on to get to stickers and to send Apple Cash and everything else. You will see another option to choose check-in.
Okay.
And it's only on the iPhone.
And that's why I'm not seeing it on my Mac.
That's right.
Okay. Well, there's
You might
a lot of good information
know.
here.
Thank you.
And don't forget water.
Yeah, we don't go anywhere around Arizona without taking our canteen with us.
Oh,
So
well,
thank you,
that's small.
thank you so much, Steve.
You're
We
welcome,
really
guys.
appreciate it. There's a lot of good information. Hopefully, we will be better prepared and ready for
Drop
emergencies
into the
soon.
chat.
Steve, for some reason, you're garbled.
Oh, let's see why.
You're better now.
Check my audios.
You're better now.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the meeting feedback just came in.
Handouts dropped into the chat.
Yeah, drop those into the chat. And I have asked my S lady to pick a winner for the door prize. And this month it has picked number 4, which happens to be Kevin. So
Cool.
Kevin, you can now buy some hazelnuts.
Right.
Fridge is full of hazelnut creamer, so
Or
A wise choice, my friend.
or a weather app or two.
Okay, in the chat, I
So,
put the 2 PDFs so you can each manually download them from the chat.
excellent. Thank you so very much. We appreciate your time, your effort, and your knowledge.
You're welcome. Very happy to
Do
have.
we have the raffle drawing?
Yes, I took care of that.
Who?
me.
And Kevin, Kevin, Kevin was the winner of the door prize, and now he'll be able to, if he can find a store that takes the Apple gift card, he can buy lots of hazelnuts.
Right.
Well, that, and also, when I filled out the poll, the meeting poll, I did give myself a 5. So that's kind of cheating. So
I don't think we're worried about that kind of cheating.
Now I got a question for everybody. Besides me, does anybody else have a go bag and an emergency kit?
I do not.
I do.
Yeah, definitely needed.
It is big time. So all those things, and from the 2 handouts, I hope that is enough stimulus or to get you guys started thinking about those things and maybe purchasing a couple of the items or a couple more apps. But really thinking about it, because trying to self-educate yourself when an emergency happens, it just does not work.
Okay.
How do you
Well,
how do you download the
download what, Tommy?
apps in the chat?
Oh, don't worry about it, Tony. Tommy, I will, you can click on them in the chat, but what I will do is I will put it in to show notes for Steve's presentation in TMUG Talk, and in your, they'll be
Okay,
in
thank you.
your inbox.
Thank you.
Bob, there is a download
There is a
icon.
download button in the chat,
I've
and I've
never
just
noticed that
downloaded those
before, but
too.
that's Steve, thank you for these apps. There's some great suggestions.
Yeah.
Oh, you're welcome. Again, it's not all conclusive. You guys in exploring, or you may even have a couple I haven't discovered either, but if you do, pass them along to Bob and he'll pass them over to me. And I love updating that kind of stuff so that people have good resources.
Okay.
Yeah, the story on the Pinto I put into the chat, but the guy escaped on his motorcycle, and he never got the Pinto back. And I'm not sure if the people he photographed in front of him made it out or not. But
Right. That's right.
there were, how many people died from the initial exposure?
I can't remember. It was somewhere between like 80 to 200.
Yeah, the number 200 sort of sticking in my head for some
Yeah,
reason.
yeah.
May not be accurate. Yeah.
And of course, there were a few that, the geographic seismic people were warning people that were anywhere near close to Mount St. Helens that, you should leave town, you should head out here. But there are a lot of people didn't heed that or just said, I'm not budging, not moving, and unfortunately lost their lives because they were just way too close to the blast zone.
Yeah. How long were they giving warnings out in advance? Do you
Um,
remember?
I remember at the very least, it was like 2 weeks to a week. They kind of
Yeah.
knew a week before it actually blew that it was it was getting close. They couldn't tell exactly when, but they were kind of within a week of saying, we think this might happen. And so I'm sure there were some people's lives that were saved and some people that did get out of town. Luckily, that region, it was kind of remote to begin with, but again, the blast didn't go up, it went out sideways in that direction. It really affected people in that direction heading south.
Yeah, it really put volcano alerts on the map in more ways than one.
It did. It did.
Yeah. Quake feed, by the way, having lived in the Bay Area of San Francisco, everybody out there has it. You probably want to put your threshold pretty high because you'll be amazed how many earthquakes there are on the planet every day.
Exactly. I think
And
anybody that tries out that Quake Watch app, they're going to kind of see that or get a feeling for that. And you're right. If you're in a high quake zone, you you usually raise the bar up a little higher because you know what you already have endured or is happening often, or but you always want to be aware of anything big that's happening.
I
Right now,
think
there
you
seem
can
to be a lot of
restrict
them
it.
in Japan, in the
Yeah, I think you
Pacific.
can restrict it to various areas too,
Yep, you can.
like Southern California or something like that,
Mhm.
where like a high 3 is important.
That's right.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, stay safe, everybody, and I hope you use some of that material again, just so that you're thinking about it and you revisit some of these things or create your own emergency plan. And I'll know to stay hydrated too if
Yeah.
I'm anywhere near Arizona.
Someday we need to have a Memoji face-off between you and Bob. He likes to do them too.
Well, I do write a column for the Portland user group, and um, I'll share this tidbit with you because I did a short column, a one-page column for the last issue, and my column was about predicting what the iPhone folding phone will be named. I had some luck and some Apple history in predicting what the iPad was going to be named and called, and also when Apple was I discovered how they were going to make a watch. So my guess this time is the words that have been thrown around are iPhone Fold or iPhone Ultra. Yeah, the getting that Ultra label name or whatever, but I think they the cleverest name they could name it is Apple Book because it's so different from the iPhone family in that it folds. That's how you're kind of using it, turning it into like a mini iPad. Um, I think it would just be better if they designated it and created a unique name like that for it. So that's my prediction. Now, if they're as smart as I am, we'll wait and see. Um, they did come up with a new name that surprised us with the MacBook Neo. Nobody saw that coming. So it'll be kind of interesting to see and what maybe WWDC will reveal some of these things or not. We'll find out in a couple of weeks.
Right. Won't be long now.
Well, thank you very much again, Steve. It looks like we've lost Bob.
Oh yeah.
So I think that brings our meeting to an end. We'll see you next month, third Tuesday of the month. And as Bob would say, drive safe.
Bye,
Stay safe,
everyone.
everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Roger.